When the words Egyptian queen roll off your tongue, does your mind immediately bring to life that extraordinary figure who made Caesar bow and Antony willingly sink? Her beauty is a poison that cuts through the gut. Her political acumen is a sharp blade. On the Mediterranean stage of the 1st century BC, she toyed with Rome's two giants in the palm of her hand. Yet at 39, she ended her legend with a sudden death. Official history says she was bitten to death by an Egyptian cobra. But what if I told you this poignant story passed down for 2,000 years might just be a carefully woven lie by the Romans? Today, let's peel back the layers of this historical mystery to see how many thrilling details lie beneath the deliberately hidden truth. First, let's talk about the version we've heard since childhood. In 30 BC, after the disastrous defeat at the Battle of Actium, Cleopatra was held captive by Octavian in the palace at Alexandria. Watching her kingdom about to become a Roman province, the proud queen refused to be a prisoner. So she had her maids bring an Egyptian cobra hidden in a fig basket into the room. She stretched out her fair arm, letting the fangs pierce her skin, dying gracefully amid the hissing of the snake's tongue. This image is so dramatic. A beautiful queen, a deadly viper, a crumbling kingdom. It's practically a natural movie script. But if we look closely with a magnifying glass, we'll find more loopholes than a Roman warship could slip through. Let's start with that so-called murder weapon. The Egyptian cobra is indeed one of Africa's most feared killers. When it rears up, it stands as tall as a person. Its spread neck flaps like a grim reaper's cloak. But the problem is its venom doesn't act as quickly as legend claims. Modern toxicology studies show after being bitten by an Egyptian cobra, victims typically endure 2 to 6 hours of agony. First a burning pain at the wound, then vomiting, diarrhea, difficulty breathing, finally suffocating amid convulsions of the whole body. Yet Plutarch records that Cleopatra died very quickly, even managing to give final instructions to her maids before death. This is like saying someone stabbed with a knife could smile and discuss suture options with a doctor. Do you think that's possible? Even more suspicious, as the earliest historian to record the queen's death, Plutarch was essentially a second-hand news peddler. He was born 200 years after Cleopatra's death, the equivalent of us writing about secrets from Emperor Kangxi's time today. What's more, in his Life of Antony, he never mentioned a snake at all, only vaguely referring to a hidden way. It wasn't until centuries later that the Roman writer Dio Cassius first wrote Egyptian cobra into the story. Then there are the archaeological finds at the palace ruins in Alexandria. In 2000, a French team found the remains of the Queen's Palace underwater in Alexandria Harbor. The exquisite mosaic floors, carved column bases all prove it was an extremely luxurious place. But through all excavation reports, there's no sign of a cave where a venomous snake could hide. Not even a wall crevice a snake could slip through. An Egyptian cobra, though not overly large, would need to sneak unseen into the queen's bedroom in a heavily guarded Roman camp, bite the target precisely, then disappear without a trace. This is as difficult as having a modern special forces soldier pull off a trace-free assassination in the White House. Not to mention in the area suspected to be her bedroom, archaeologists only found ritual pottery and jewelry. No snake bones or scales. Speaking of which, we can't ignore the biggest beneficiary, Octavian. This young man, who later became Rome's first emperor, spent his life meticulously erasing Cleopatra's traces. Think about it, as long as the queen lived, she could become a spiritual banner for Egyptians resisting Roman rule. Caesar and Antony had both fallen for her. How could Octavian let this woman appear in a Roman triumph? But killing her outright wouldn't work. After all, she was Egypt's legitimate queen. An overt murder would stir up public anger. What's the best way? Let her die voluntarily, and die in a way that's legendary enough to make people overlook the tricks behind it. So when news of the queen's death arrived, Octavian put on a fake show of mourning at her funeral, while spreading the snake bite suicide story across Rome, portraying himself as a victor who respects his opponents. This tactic is practically ancestral compared to modern politicians' public relations moves. In fact, we can already see something wrong between the lines of historical records. Roman historians described Cleopatra as a seductress who destabilized nations. Livy said she corrupted Rome's heroes with beauty. Tacitus called her the Nile's siren, choking the republic with desire. But Egyptian inscriptions tell a completely different story. On the walls of the Temple of Edfu, she's depicted as an incarnation of Isis, bringing 22 years of peace and plenty to Egypt. On the steels of Philae Island craftsmen carved her deeds of reducing taxes and building water projects. It's like the same person is a devil in the mouths of enemies and a savior in the eyes of townsfolk. Which do you think is more credible? The real Cleopatra was no mere vase in movies who only batted her eyes. She inherited the throne at 18, facing her brother's rebellion and Roman threats. Yet stabilized the situation with extraordinary courage. When Caesar led his army into Egypt, she had herself wrapped in a Persian carpet and delivered to Caesar's camp at midnight. As the carpet unfurled before the Roman commander, she wore a translucent gown analyzing Egyptian affairs in fluent Latin, leaving Caesar stunned. Back then, women weren't even allowed to speak in public, let alone participate in politics. Yet she dared to bargain with Caesar, not only keeping her throne but getting Caesar to eliminate her brother's forces. Later, when Antony controlled eastern Rome, she sailed to Tarsus with a huge fleet. Her ship covered in purple carpets, herself dressed as Venus, charming the Roman commander with a feast, making him willing to cede rich provinces like Syria and Cyprus to Egypt. Such a woman, how could she choose such a messy death in desperation? Modern forensic experts have long questioned the snake bite theory. In 2010, the Egyptian Archaeological Society teamed with toxicologists from the University of London, conducting simulations using venom similar to that of the Egyptian cobra on animals. They found the shortest death time was 3 hours, with the animals convulsing and bleeding from mouth and nose, completely unable to maintain the legendary elegance. More importantly, a snake bite leaves 2 clear fang marks. Yet there's no record of such marks on the queen's body displayed by Octavian later. Instead, some private Roman letters mention Cleopatra's mastery of toxicology. Her palace gardens grew poisonous plants like aconite and hemlock, and she kept slaves to test poison effects. One letter even says she experimented with 3 different poisons, finding a toxin extracted from toad skin kills quickly and peacefully. This is interesting. If she really wanted to kill herself, she had more reliable options at hand. Why go to the trouble of getting an uncontrollable venomous snake? Let's look at details that were deliberately ignored. Records say on the day of the queen's death, her 2 maids Charmian and Iras died too. If it was a snake bite, one Egyptian cobra's venom could kill at most 2 people. How could it take down 3 adults at once? Moreover, these 2 maids died extremely peacefully. When Roman soldiers rushed in, one was arranging the queen's crown. The other was kneeling to straighten her skirt, showing no signs of pain from poisoning or snake bites. It's more like they took slow-acting poison in advance, dying simultaneously at a predetermined time. Even more suspicious, Octavian sealed her palace immediately after her death, executing all servants, including gardeners. This wasn't handling aftermath. It was destroying evidence. There's another key point everyone overlooked. After Cleopatra's death, her treasure vanished. Roman records say the queen's wealth could fund the entire Roman army for 10 years. Yet Octavian found only a small portion after occupying Alexandria. Where did the missing gold, jewels, and spices go? Some say she transferred them in advance, but how could a prisoner manage that? More likely someone looted the palace before her death. And that someone could only be Octavian's confidants. If the queen was murdered, the killers would certainly plunder her belongings first, then fake the scene. That so-called venomous snake might have been planted to cover up the theft. Movies have elevated this lie to mythic status. In the 1963 film Cleopatra, Elizabeth Taylor's portrayal lies on a golden couch after being bitten, staring dazedly at the ceiling, dying before Antony's statue. This scene is breathtakingly beautiful, but completely contradicts basic physiology. In reality, a cobra bite causes rapid pupil dilation and facial muscle convulsions, making it impossible to maintain the legendary elegance. Ironically, the Egyptian cobra in the movie was a non-venomous rat snake. Its fangs clipped by trainers to make it seem fierce. This artistic license entrenched the snake kiss legend, taking us further from historical truth. Now let's make a bold guess about what happened. Octavian knew Cleopatra would never submit, so he sent trusted men to her room under the pretense of negotiation, injecting a fast-acting poison when she wasn't looking. To cover up the truth, they placed a snake in the room and forced the maids to take poison. Once everything was arranged, they let soldiers discover the scene, claiming the queen killed herself rather than suffer humiliation. This way, Octavian eliminated a mortal enemy, maintained his image as a tolerant victor, and justifiably seized Egypt's wealth, a triple win. As for the surviving records, they're just victory anthems written by the winners. Who would dare speak against Octavian in his reign? But history always leaves traces. In a temple in southern Egypt, archaeologists found a 1st century CE stele, carved with hieroglyphs saying our queen was killed by Roman jackals. Her blood stained the Nile's yellow sand, but her soul will guard Egypt forever. In a charred scroll from the remains of the Library of Alexandria, a passage mentions on the 15th of August Romans entered the palace with poison disguised as medicine, claiming it was a cure for heartache. These fragmented records may hold the real truth. Cleopatra's story endures not just for her beauty and intrigue, but because she represents resistance. A woman in a male-dominated ancient world, using wisdom and courage to stand against the mightiest empire, failing but living more vividly than anyone. As for the truth of her death, there may never be conclusive proof. But that doesn't stop us from seeing a real flesh-and-blood woman in the altered records. She wasn't a seductress who rose through beauty nor a fragile victim in movies, but a ruler fighting fiercely in the game of power. A queen who battled to the end for her country and people. Finally, a question for everyone. If Cleopatra was indeed murdered, why did Octavian invent such a flawed lie about a snake bite? Was it to hide his cruelty or give a powerful rival a dignified end? And how many revisions and concealments lie in the records passed down through millennia? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments, as we seek glimmers of truth in history's fog. After all, real history isn't cold text, but the cries of countless vivid souls in the tide of time.